Hi, everybody. So I am Todd. I am the CEO and founder of Evernester. And we're here with the ladies from Gift Services as well as Alice. And we're going to talk about the waiting period that a hopeful family goes through on their adoption journey. But I just wanted to give you guys a second to introduce yourselves before we kind of jump in.
Thanks for having us. I'm Sally Ankerfelt. I'm the president and co-founder of Growing Intentional Families Together. We're an adoption coaching firm that supports families before, during, and after adoption, and we put the child in the center. So it's great to be here. I'm one of the adoption coaches from the company.
Hi, my name's Alice Butler-Obazee. I'm with Evernester, and I adopted my 2.5-year-old from birth. It was a domestic adoption, and I'm really excited to share some of the stuff that I did and wish that I had done during that waiting period.
Yeah, so my husband, Logan, and I are also adoptive parents. We brought Chloe home this past May, so 3 months today, ironically. But Alice, I guess I'll start with you. We all have very unique adoption stories that take their own journey and their own path. And I think the word journey gets thrown around so often that we lose the impact and reality that each journey is so unique. But can you talk about kind of your waiting period and what that felt like and what outreach looked like and what you and your partner did during that time?
Yes. And I mean, at first, when we sort of decided to adopt, I feel like we made this big decision that we were going to find an agency and create our profile and then just wait for something to happen. And surprisingly, nothing really did. Like there was all of this buildup emotionally, a little bit of like stress and waiting, going through a home study. So there was all of this activity that happened. And then when we went live on our profile, like literally nothing happened for months and months. And during that time frame, I mean, it was a real emotional roller coaster for me. And it wasn't until about 10 months in, our profile had been active for 10 months, that we decided we had to start taking some action. And then I hired a marketing guy to help us figure out how to, let people know that we were out there outside of our agency. I hired a coach, not unlike Coach Sally and Coach Sharon, to help me kind of get my mindset right and kind of recognize that we were really looking to connect with a birth mother or a birth family. We're not necessarily, in my mind, I was just waiting for this baby to materialize in my life. But really, I realized that you're really looking to connect with another human that's in a very unique position in their life.
Yeah. Logan and I, similarly, we kind of hit the ground running. We were full of steam. And we actually, the first match or connection we had was disrupted, as was the second. So although we had a few more interactions before we finally met the woman that would become our birth mother or Chloe's birth mom, we kind of were running in circles trying to figure out how to stay the course and not get depressed or to understand that depression was part of this. And we did not have coaches, and I wish I knew Sally and Sharon at that time, but I didn't. And I think even that's important to pay attention to, like what resources do hopeful families know are available? Do they know that coaching services exist, or, that the way that they manage their expectations impact their overall journey? Sally, do you guys get feedback from your clients about frustrations and kind of the disappointments that they feel during their journeys?
Oh, yeah. And I think that, like you mentioned, having somebody skilled, and I should have said I'm an adopted parent too. If I were closer, you'd see my wrinkles, because my kids are going on age 33, age 26, and 23.
Wow.
But I do, we've got the benefit of hindsight and realizing that if we would have had that kind of skilled support to help us know that we will get through this and there are things we can do in the meantime. And I don't know about Alice and Todd, but for me and my husband, we did our profile, and I have it here just for fun, right? So it's old school.
Ah,
Wow.
It's not, it wasn't, there were no videos, and we cut the little heads. I thought it was being pretty clever. But anyway, after we got the profile done, I don't know about you, but our agency would say, oh, this expectant mom looked at your profile, and then we wouldn't hear anything. And so it went into this feeling of despair. And also, why did that particular person not want us, right? And so it was this cycle of anxiety and sort of wondering what was going on and why were we passed over. And one thing a coach can really do is to say, you know what, you never know why. And sometimes the reason why an expectant mom visits with you is because of something as simple as the fact that they see a picture on your wall that they had when they were growing up. That actually happened. So you just never know, where the connection is made. And so those kinds of thoughts that can help prospective parents while they wait. And then also that, hey, what can we do while we wait? How can we create our life differently right now while we're waiting? Which can feel kind of anxiety producing there too, because you're kind of putting yourself out there that you will have a family someday, right? But you just don't know when. Yeah.
Yeah. One of our professionals, part of their rules in their package was if we were going to travel, we had to let them know. So at first I was like, we're going to Fire Island for the weekend, or we're headed to Cape Cod. We'll be back in 3 days. And she was like, no. I mean, if you're going to be out of the country for a week or two or something a little bit longer. And I guess I was learning the fluidity of the journey, and that, although you need to be contacted, and of course, if there's a sort of a stork drop situation or a birth that's a possible placement, they want you to be able to be contacted and to get to that situation quickly. But I didn't think this was going to come up already. All of this is part of the inspiration behind why we designed Evernester the way we did, because although adoption profiles are necessary and quite common, I think our design in keeping families consistently engaged in their profile, in the development of their profile, and treating it like a living document gives some focus to the angst that exists during the journey. What do I do? Who do I talk to? Where do I show these expectant birth mothers or expectant mothers that are looking at my profile that my life's continuing while I'm on this journey, right? That I still go to baseball games, we still eat ice cream, we still have holidays, and that I, as a person, my spirit, my soul is still evolving, especially during this journey. So I really love the fact that Evernester has created a space for families to keep telling their story while they're waiting. I don't think I realized, and I wonder how everyone else feels as well, although I might not have acknowledged the mental preparation that was happening. When Chloe did arrive and we were in the hospital and I was holding her those first few precious moments and realizing that this journey was kind of culminating, there was relief, and not the relief that I expected. I expected the relief to be, finally, I'm a parent. But it was relief, like when you get an A on a paper, relief that the work I did paid off, that I felt complete because I dedicated myself to this journey and I found ways to believe in ourselves as a couple and our journey to parenthood. And I guess I was just in a very confident place. I felt secure. I didn't expect to feel that way. It was kind of surprising. I don't know if you guys felt that way, when you met your children, but it was very surprising for me. I'm so relieved that the conversations about transracial adoption are so prevalent in the market and the industry today, because it is such a precious placement, and it is absolutely and Alice, I hope you jump in here because you're going to talk from firsthand experience, a necessary, there's necessary planning that goes into it, right? And education and coaching and comfortability. One of our disruptions, unfortunately, a disruption, it always kind of like pings me, was for a little Black baby girl. And we were so excited. And, that initial match, that 24 hours is like, nothing beats it, right? It's weird. Well, birthday beats it, but match day is fun too. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, we have so much work to do. So Logan was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, we need to start. And I'm an educator at heart, and like a lifelong student. So I was like, we need to watch books. And I got us into master classes and YouTube webinars. And I bought a couple books on like hair care. And I had to get comfortable even using language about talking about my preparation because I wanted to make sure that I was living in the space correctly. Alice, how did you prep?
It's a great question. And I'll be honest, that's one of the things, like we did a lot of preparation with regard to integrating a birth mother into our family and all of these things. But we ended up with a transracial placement. And we did not do, in my opinion, as much preparation as we could have. So to Sharon's point, I think that would have been something that would have been better, but it was something that I immediately, like on all those late nights and, early mornings and downtime when you have a newborn who is pretty inactive, we did a lot of work. And we did a lot of research and things, particularly around how to approach people in our networks and people that maybe wouldn't say the right thing, or they might ask questions that they don't intend to be rude or inappropriate, but they are rude and inappropriate. And, I think too, there's something about, with adoption, and part of the reason why I love Evernester and I love coaching is because no matter where you are in the adoption constellation, you're always going to be a part of that constellation, and everything is emerging. So, we're now the parent of a 2.5-year-old. She's a toddler. She's talking. She's doing other things. Her hair is different. And so we feel like we sort of perfected a few things maybe a year ago, and now it's like new level, new experience. And so for us, we're just doing our best. And one of the things that I think is so beautiful about, being open and authentic with these communications and with these connections are that you can always be learning and growing, and just coming from that space of we're doing our best and there's always room for improvement and there's never any judgment. That's one thing that I think has helped us.
It's funny. It made me think a lot of times in preparation, we find ourselves in rehearsal, right? And you can't rehearse for your adoption journey because you don't know what the script's going to look like. So if you spend time focusing on, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and then your situation ends up being D, E, and F, you're completely ill-prepared. And it's sort of how I think Logan and I felt a couple of times, because as we were in outreach and as expectant moms would reach out to us directly, or they would reach out to our professionals, when we would get on the phone, it's almost embarrassing now. Those first couple phone calls were so rehearsed, right? Like we were the most loving couple that ever graced the earth. And like, we have a perfect wardrobe and we're financially perfectly secure. Like my life was perfect, and it is not perfect at all. And I think the beauty in our imperfections is how we ended up with such a close bond with our daughter's mother, right? And again, kind of some of the driving force behind Evernester. So our profiles are video first, and they're fueled by questions that we ask hopeful families. But those questions range from things that are very lighthearted to things that are much more serious. Things from what's your favorite ice cream flavor to how would you prepare for a transracial adoption. And I think it's in the intricacies of those answers that give expected parents the ability to attach to something and say, hey, wait a minute, I like the way you answered that. I like the fact that you're wearing that shirt, that I hear your voice and the tone of it. It gives them a lot of ins, as I call them. And that's it. And once there's a tap on the window, the conversation is organic. But how do you guys prep your clients for those initial conversations? Because we're in this waiting period, and then out of nowhere, you go from a waiting period to a possible match. So what's your advice there?
Well, certainly, like you said, being genuine. People aren't looking for perfection because, when I remember my mom loving my boyfriend's mother because her slip showed,
Yeah.
it's because then that made my mom feel she didn't have to be perfect, right? So it's not the perfection that people are looking for. It's a human person who demonstrates, I would have to say, a care, the highest care for the child and for the expectant mother. And one thing that we really talk about a lot, I should say I do especially, is when I talk to people, especially in the outreach area time, is to think about what they're doing, kind of think about the future a little bit when their child is older. And when you will be telling them, right, you're going to be doing the life book, you're going to be doing, because this is their story that you are entering into. So it's kind of it's a tender ground. It's because it's their life. And so what are you doing and how are you being so that when you look back, you can say this is what we did, this is how we interacted. And I mean that it's not to put pressure, but it is to create sort of that, what would you call it, atmosphere or vibe that communicates to somebody that we are here for this child, and together with you, the expectant mother, we will journey for the sake of this child. And it comes out in the questions, and it comes out because I know when I started this myself, and I was in the it was much more passive back in the day. It's much more active now during the outreach time. But I kind of remember not really having in my mind so much the experience of the child or the experience of the expectant mother. It was only until I sat down with the expectant mother that I was like, oh my word, there's a human being here. There's a person here who has a life. And some of the things that I will confess this to you, that I had stereotypes in my head about who this expectant mother might be. And those stereotypes were not the case. And so I saw the pain, I saw the love, I saw the struggle. And so all of a sudden there was a flesh and blood person here with this this heart-wrenching upcoming decision. And then there was, of course, the child. And so when I realized that, I became a little bit more of a different person, especially when that interaction happened. We left that room after that conversation with a whole different persona, I would say, because I came in trying to be perfect and whatever, and I left with this is a human to human relationship, and there's a situation here that I have entered into now. And it's you kind of know what I'm getting at. So that
100%.
That's the kind, and that's hindsight, but that's something that we do share with our families, is to just think about that too, because it's so hard to conceptualize that. It really until you kind of get in the process.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that, Alice. I don't know if you do. And Sharon, you spoke about this with jumping in a crib and the reaction that an older child has to being adopted. But there is a transformation that happens in connecting with an expectant mom, and there's this indescribable almost security that happened for me when I knew it was the right match. And I'm so grateful that we do have such an open adoption plan, and that I consider her part of our family, and we talk often and we share pictures often. And, she vents to me when she's struggling with the choice that she made, and I vent to her when I have worries and concerns about the future. So I think you know, the team aspect of it is important to me. And I'm happy we found a way to be on the same page and the same team and approach things from the same angle, but terrifying. And the first expectant mom I spoke to, I remember I got on the phone and I could hear her voice was quivering. She was so nervous. And she was younger. And I was so nervous. And it took me a good, and 30 seconds on your first conversation with an expectant mom feels like 15 years. But it took me a good a minute to say, are you nervous? Because I'm nervous too. And it kind of broke the ice, and we started to have a bit more of an organic, real conversation. But I think it would be wonderful if there was a safe space for women who have placed their children to share their experience. And part of what we're trying to do with Evernester is we do speak with a lot of women who have placed with birth moms about their profile experience, about how they ultimately ended up deciding which family they were interested in working with or connecting with. And although we're getting fabulous feedback, 10 out of 10 birth moms are preferring the video-based Evernester profile over traditional profiles. I'm ending those phone calls with, think about this. Is there a space where you'd like to come and have an impact on the industry? Because the struggles, the pain points that you experienced, not because of your choice, but because of the process, you might be able to better, right? You might be able to make that process better for another woman who's looking at adoption as a choice or another hopeful family. So just a shout out to all the birth moms out there. We appreciate you. Alice, how did you feel about that? Like, how was your initial conversation? How did that evolve?
Yeah, well, I am just so grateful because I think one of the things that we did well, and we did not do everything well. So I am very thankful that one of the instructions that we were given by our coach was just kind of practicing connecting with her, kind of forget everything else, like we were putting ourselves at the center of everything. And when you were in the process of waiting, it's really her, like your birth mother, and sometimes a birth father, but generally it's your birth mother who's really at the center of everything. And so I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, a lot of just negative feelings of what if we never get matched? What if nobody chooses us? What if this happens? What if that happens? Blah, 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 blah. And, someone told me, my coach told me, like, you have to stop this. Like, you are putting out this kind of force field out there to connect with someone who wants to connect with you. But everything that you're feeling and putting out there, is almost like you have to look at it like almost like a spiritual umbilical cord, if we could get woo-woo here for a second. But so what you want to be, you are a mother, like you are, looking to connect with someone. You want to be a safe space. So whatever's going on in your mind, you have to be a soft place for someone to land. And so for us, I mean, that resonated with me when she said that to me. I was like, wow, I am really being selfish right now. So when I changed the way I was thinking and I really changed and put the intention out there that I wanted to connect with someone who I could bring into my family, that I could support, that, I would feel really confident in speaking to and all those things. And so when our match happened, it was almost like it was too good to be true, because she had a lot of experiences in her life that I've experienced in my life, but our trajectories just went in different ways. And so that's what was, and I am flawed. I am not a perfect person. And I was able to be super authentic, open, and honest with her. And that is what connected us in the beginning. So I cannot stress that enough. Like, you only have one opportunity to be yourself. There's only one you. And so the more authentic you can be, it's like a relationship, a marriage, a partnership. Don't hide the imperfections. They're going to come out one day, and you may as well just get it out all on the table right now. And that is why she fell in love with us. And ultimately, she's actually white and the birth father is Black. And so when we were matched with and we weren't expecting to have a transracial child, I was just honest. I was like, you guys, we don't have a lot of Black people in our lives, but, and then they would joke with us. They would say, well, you better get on it. You better get to the right hairstylist and all these things. And we were able to have this open dialogue, and it made me, I don't know, we are family now. And
right.
All I can say is just consider who you're connecting with, and just be that safe place to land for someone. And then that first conversation can just be, it is awkward no matter what. I mean, when you get to know someone, but it can be a really beautiful connection from the jump.
Yeah. It's such an interesting word, trajectory, right? Like starting at one point with a certain expectation and ending up someplace completely different. And there's almost a positive connotation about it. But in reality, I think our trajectories are really just controlled by the choices we make. And a lot of those choices happen in our, young adulthood or our teenage years. And they're greatly impacted by, or I'm going to speak for me personally because I don't know everyone's history, but my choices were greatly impacted by my family and especially my parents. And of course, I faced adversity and, struggles of coming out of the closet and drugs and alcohol and all of the normal things that happen to all of us in that age group. And I think understanding the love and impact that my parents had on me and linking that to making the right choices helped me a lot in connecting with my birth mom now. Because I am a gay boy from the Bronx. Not the easiest story to tell. And I think it was a level set for us because now I'm a gay man from Westchester County. That's very different than the kid I was who was struggling to find his way and could have very well ended up with a different story. But because of the love and guidance that I received from my family, not only did it put me on the right trajectory, but it set the foundation of becoming a good parent. And I was able to kind of communicate that. She understood it, and it comes up often. She's still making choices that are impacting her life and the kids that she is raising, and we often talk about that, So I love that there was a bonding opportunity that came out of that. Which leads me, ironically, to the unfortunate side of adoption that is women that scam hopeful families and are out to do harm and just financially benefit from lying. Do you guys spend a lot of time coaching your families on preparing for that risk, recovering from that risk? How much of an impact does that concern have on your work with families?
We have not encountered that very often.
Oh, good.
And I think more of our experience is that most women who are faced with this, that this is a longer decision that's being made. And so there was only one situation where and I didn't have a long conversation with the family. They were so devastated. And that was the one time when they had this situation where it did appear to be that it was money that was lost, and there was something going on with both the expectant mother and the expectant father in terms of what was happening. I will say this, that there were also questions there with the agency. And so sometimes we will talk to families about really looking closely at what might be green lights or red flags with agencies, because it's important for families to, and we coach them around this, research your state's guidelines, what is permissible when it comes to adoption. How much money can be given and what can it be given for to an expectant mother, for instance. And then looking on these websites at the different agencies who might, it might be like almost too good to be true, over promising something, or over promising a speedy adoption that, like, oh, gender, and it doesn't seem like there might be as many hoops to jump through. Looking at the ratings of the agency, not just their testimonials, but going on Google and taking a look at not just the 5 stars, but go on down and take a few looks at the 2 stars, the 1 stars, because there are, a lot of times, if people are going through an agency, the agency bears a lot of responsibility for what you're just talking about, in my opinion. I think it gets more and more likely the further away a person gets from agencies and more into the private adoption realm, where you get your attorney, you work that way through it, because that too, there are some things that you can ask attorneys. There are some things that you can ask people that can kind of give you a sense of what might be going on. In this one family's instance, when we looked at the agency, we found out that the agency had changed its name. And so that was very interesting. That's a little bit of a question mark. So we went back to the original agency name, and we found that there was some litigation going on with some families in that agency. So, and that's so rare too. I think most people, it doesn't happen, but when it does, it is devastating. And this one couple, I didn't hear from them again because I think they just said, we can't do this, because their whole heart had gone into it. And it was devastating. And they came to us after this experience. So those are a few things I would say. Sharon, do you have thoughts there?
There's real power in investigation. And I think it's often overlooked, because when you start your adoption journey, you're so eager to get to outreach, right? To find a match, if it's 18 to 24 months, the average waiting period, well, then I'm going to do it in 12, right? Like, that's everyone's goal, is to have a baby. And you often make some decisions in haste because, they seem like a great agency. I mean, an agency is an agency, right? Like, families have said this to me. So to link that back, what Evernester is doing on the professional side, and you guys were actually our first professional profile, is we have professional profiles where agencies, legal teams, lawyers, anyone that has anything to do, coaches, consultants, with the adoption process, both expectant family facing or hopeful family facing, and we're hoping the next step being adoptee facing, create profiles where they use videos to tell the story and provide an explanation of the services they provide. And I think it's such a great investigative tool for families, because you get to spend some real time with people before you're in a live conversation. And oftentimes you can talk to someone on the phone and say, oh, no, I don't want to do business with them, or no, thanks, I'm not hungry for lunch today. And I think it's the same thing here. When you hear a lawyer talk about the way that they develop relationships with birth mom, or how they're advertising, the language they're using, right? Like, vocabulary is a very important thing in this industry, and we all put our own personal style on it. And sometimes just those style choices make me a little, make me question the way that somebody talks about adoption. So I'm really hoping that our professional profiles help families make better decisions. And back to where I started with the question, I guess I should have rephrased it a little bit. I think, given the increase in self-matching and the use of social media and other outlets other than professional agencies or legal teams, I think that's where we're seeing a concern for being scammed or hopeful families worried about disruptions. And we are a firm believer that social media has a positive impact on adoption journeys, because I say it over and over again. I'll say it as long as I'm in this industry. The more eyes that look at your profile, the more possibilities it is that it's going to fall into the hands of your birth family. But there's some risk, right? Because the internet is a scary place sometimes. So if you had a family that said, hey, Gift, hey, Sally and Sharon, we're going to create an Instagram profile just about our adoption journey, and we're going to share weekly our profile and updates to hopefully self-identify an expectant mom that may want to, learn more about our family. How would you advise them to protect themselves from risk? I guess that's a little bit more of a focused question rather than just the general aspect.
Well, realistic expectations, for sure. I think also being like your Todd, you hinted at, we have, that's so interesting because we tend to more support the going through agencies because of this, the difficulty, because as expectant or hopeful parents, we do have a hard time maybe noticing something. And there's two reasons for that. One is we don't know what we don't know. Our brain has never experienced it. So how can we know if an expectant parent has a different idea of why they might be engaging in a conversation with us? Meaning if they don't really plan or not thinking about that, and then money is exchanged and hopes are dashed. Or so those are the kinds of things that a coach can certainly help. Like, let's take a look at this and how you are presenting yourself in your profile. What kind of values are you showing forth in the profile? And not being afraid to put some values around it for yourself so that you do grab the attention of an expectant parent who it might be, because I'm making this up, but I'm thinking myself that if somebody might appear very open, very eager, to that might have more of a presentation of vulnerability. Whereas if a prospective hopeful family really is genuine, puts it out there and says, we are doing this and we want this to be an ethical, healthy, those kinds of words that is put out there. And then once you have that conversation, we don't, this is a really good idea. So you gave me a great idea. We have sheets that we have prepared that we customize for questions for agencies to make sure that that agency is, working ethically. Well, there could be a sheet of like, what are some things you might want to look for? Things that conversation questions you might want to have with an expectant parent once that parent reaches out to you and you're doing your outreach. And then having us also sit with that because that's the hard part. When we're in that mode, it's hard to kind of be that person who has that discernment going on. So that kind of.
Right. And I speak about being an educator at heart often, but we're trained as educators to lead through collaboration, right? That you're stronger as a team, that you're stronger working with your colleagues, you're stronger working when your students are part of the learning design process. And I'm trying to apply that to Evernester every chance I can get. We kind of want to bear hug the industry and bring everybody towards the center and say, what's everyone doing really well? And how do we collectively better the industry, better processes through learning from one another? And again, firm believers that social media in today's world, with the age range of expectant moms, is a necessity because that's the language they speak. It's absolutely important to ensure that we're protecting our clients, and so are you, or you're better coaching your clients to be prepared. So we're looking into features like letting birth moms or expectant moms register with Evernester so that they are somewhat vetted beforehand. And we know that this is a woman that's worked with a professional that is actually interested in exploring adoption as a choice. We also suggest that families list on their contact information on our profiles. They put their professional's contact information. Put your agency's contact, put your social worker, whoever you're working with, so that they get that initial call and can then kind of like pass the expectant mom on to you if they feel like it's worth, the discussion. Both of my disruptions were, unfortunately, they were done with intent. And I wish both of those women all the luck in the world. And I don't hold any hard feelings, but I think they were motivated by money because of the situations that they were facing in their lives. So I hope I helped them. However, those are not the situations I'm worried about. There are career criminals that make thousands and thousands of dollars in just a short period of time off of a couple, families that are not aware of this. So I'm hoping to kind of just add some education there, add some protection there, and just get families a little bit more educated and coached to make sure that if they're going to use social media, they're using it the right way.
Yeah.
So thanks for going through that with us, because it's a touchy topic there.
Yeah, it is.
So you spoke about how you do most of your work, or suggest to most of your families that they work with agencies. So I'm sure you guys have a preferred list of agencies. And I think there's synergy there between both of our brands, with Evernester and with Gift, because we are now partnering with agencies and supporting the modernization of their Waiting Families pages, of their profiles. And I want to say this loud and clear to every hopeful family out there. If you don't have a video profile in 2023, you need to call your agency and ask them why. Because it is so easy for us to record this webinar. It is so easy for me to FaceTime my nephews. And it's so easy for me to post an Instagram story about the baseball game I was at. But you expect a 20-something-year-old woman who's pregnant to get to learn you through just a book. So ask your agencies and ask your legal teams why you don't have a video profile. But what we're finding is agencies are concerned that technology is going to invite change that they're not prepared for. And there's this disconnect between hopeful families that are ready to be working with a modern agency and agencies who are kind of set in the way that they do things. So I'm sure that you've faced some of those challenges working with some agencies where they're resistant to change. How do you coach your families in having those conversations with agencies where obviously they've been in business for a while, they've had success, which is why they're still an agency, but how do you help families talk with their professionals to ensure they're getting modern services, that they're getting services that match today's market?
Yeah, we don't have, in fact, we even discussed this with our company, that we don't, we're not connected to different certain agencies, because coaching is about empowering people to really take hold of what works for them. However, we do say, what do you want to look for? What are the things that an agency would be solid about? Definitely, if they're still doing my example here of the profile thing, that says something about, and unless there's a couple, which we have not encountered, who wants to go old school, because there might be some that might want to do that. However, most people are very motivated to make sure that they have the greatest access. And that certainly comes with high quality type videos. That's what we like about what you're doing at Evernester as well, the creativity that you're showing. And the point you made about, it's not a point in time. Mm-hmm. A family that has one profile video, maybe something has changed maybe they got a puppy in between the time they did the first video. You never know, but it shows living people, growing people, which I think that is probably the most innovative part of what you're doing, is that you're wanting to present to expectant mothers who might be thinking about this, present something, a living person or family or couple. And so that that would be something that would be like very, I don't want to use the word attractive, but certainly applicable for families.
Yeah. Listen, I never turn away from somebody using the word attractive in a conversation with me. I welcome it, actually.
Okay.
Now, and I think, solid point to talk about Evernester for a second, right? Living document, we invite families back to their profile over and again to update them. And we're doing that through something that we're about to launch called Moments, where we know that it's responsibility for a hopeful family to upkeep their profile. It takes time, right? This is already a long journey. So for it to become a second job is a lot. So we're going to start prompting them through a text message that says, "Hey, Sally, what are you doing this Saturday? It's a beautiful, 78-degree day. What are you going to do with you and your loved ones?" And then just a link, and you'll record yourself, whether that be at the park or, grabbing a light lunch, and a quick 15-second video. You hit go, and off it goes to your profile and the social media that you choose. And we think that those little moments, as birth moms give us feedback, that's where those connections happen. So we're happy to, support hopeful families in the creation of those profile moments on Evernester. And then the other thing that I think is going to have a great impact, and if you check out one of our family's profiles on the site now on the platform, is family reference videos. And when your family members record a video talking about what wonderful parents you're to become, there's something really heartwarming and touching and personal about it. And I think for expectant moms, it substantiates what the other information that the hopeful parents are providing in their profile. So, I might say that I make the best chicken dinner. And then if my mom comes on and says, "You got to taste this chicken on Sunday afternoons," it's just a little bit more believable. I think anybody whose mom comes on and says they're good at something is just endearing. But the family reference videos, I think, are a huge support there.
Oh, yeah. Tangent.
Yeah.
Can I do a tangent?
Yeah.
So the tangent is what Sharon was saying about the fact that enrolling your family in the experience and knowing if your family is on board. I will add just a little statistic. It is shown that, and I cannot tell you where I got this, but it's out there. It is shown that children through adoption, especially, and Sharon, I'd like to know if this was your experience, if you're willing to share it, but children through adoption really find so their parents, they feel, need to love them. But where they really solidify acceptance is when the extended family accepts them. And it is that it's because they don't have to, right? And so I don't know, like Sharon, if you have that feeling, but that the profile that has that already gives that. Once again, it's when I'm looking at what you're saying, I'm looking at it from the child's eye. When they grow older, they're going to have probably all this information, which we would encourage a family to do, is record it, keep it. That's going to be something big for them if they start questioning their place potentially. Sharon, I might be speaking